I'm Jay Taylor. I'm the editor of Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy and Tech Stocks, and I'm here at the June 18th virtual Metals Investor Forum with Dr. Quinton Hennigh. He is the chairman and president of Novo Resources, and it's a company that I've been following now for a number of years, and it's one that's made me happy, and I think it's going to make people a lot more happy time to come, which is why I'm still very excited to have Quinton with me today to catch up with him. What's going on? Well, thanks for joining us, Quinton.
Thank you, Jay.
You know, I followed this story almost from the beginning, and you had this theory about how the Great Witwatersrand Rand was formed in South Africa, and that took you to northwestern Australia. And, you know, you had this theory that maybe there's a lot of gold in Western Australia, given the same geological characteristics of that territory as you saw in South Africa. So lo and behold, you have established the fact that there's a huge amount of conglomerate-hosted gold there in that part of the basin. But it brought with it a lot of difficulties. It's a lot different than South Africa, a lot of challenges, but you made an awful lot of progress since you'd identified the gold. Now, in terms of being able to measure how much of it is there, how to extract it economically, and all of that. So talk to us, first of all, can you give us an idea, give our viewers an idea of just how the magnitude of these conglomerate belts in Western Australia?
Certainly, that's a good starting point. Look, like you said a minute ago, we did start at a very conceptual level, and this is over 10 years ago. I've been working in this area. I started working or looking at this region when I was working for a major mining company about 15 years ago. It's largely driven by theory, okay? I'm not going to pretend. We came here, and the notion was that this little piece of crust in northwest Australia, the Pilbara Craton, used to be part of a bigger continent combined with the Capel Craton in South Africa. Well, guess what? The Capel Craton boasts the single largest depository of gold on Earth. Maybe something like that's in the Pilbara. All right, so to fast forward, look, what are these deposits? They're sheet-like. They're layers of rock. They're often very extensive. You know, these are sheet-like bodies that cover many, many square kilometers. Okay, so we're looking for a completely different style of gold. And then the other aspect is, in our case, it turns out the gold is quite coarse grained. As most people who follow Novo know, we've had to adapt to sampling, you know, bulk samples and stuff to accommodate for this very coarse-grained nature of the mineralization. Look, it's what Mother Nature deals you. You know, like if I thought I could find an exact replicate of the Vits, you know, I'd be delighted. But in this case, what we were looking for turned out to be somewhat different. Nonetheless, we see evidence of gold in conglomerates over a very large area. And then we also have the eroded derivatives of those, the gravels there at Egina, which in their own right appear to be a very, very big system. So how big is this? I think it's very big.
Very large. Many square kilometers, perhaps. I mean, of course, you're still exploring and developing it, but you see evidence of something that's very large.
We've staked 14,000 square kilometers to give people a perspective, okay? That's the size of Connecticut.
All right, so tell our viewers a little bit about what the challenge is. You mentioned the coarse gold, but you've done some very unique, you've really used some technologies that haven't commonly been used, at least in the gold mining industry, that look very, very promising. Separation, mechanical separation primarily. Could you talk about that and how that's leading up to what I think, to me, in my way of thinking, is potentially a very, very high margin business, possibly?
Yeah, so because of the coarse gold, it actually is amenable to mechanical sorting using various sensors. Okay, in our case, we're using X-ray transmission as well as induction, often coupled together, to detect gold in particles of rock as they pass across a conveyor belt, and the machine can literally flick them off at the end, like a little jet of air. It shoots the rock particle off. And in doing so, it can create a very high-grade concentrate. In the example of Karratha, we can take 100 tons and knock it down to, say, a ton or even less of material and capture most of the gold. All right, that's fantastic. That means we have a means of processing that's only seen in the diamond industry, really, where they use mechanical sorting extensively. At least, right now, that's about the limit in mining. Okay, so what does it mean? Costs are low. Okay, we can mechanically sort stuff for on the order of a few dollars per ton. Conventional milling might be a few tens of dollars per ton to accomplish. So, the resulting economics, we are very hopeful will demonstrate we can produce very cheap gold here. In fact, that's one of our huge benefits.
Yeah, and I understand if you can leave, I mean, I think you're going to be testing this in the field now. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that when you mine this, and by the way, these are flat lying, I think they're not dipping very much. They're very gentle dipping structures, right? So
yes,
they're very close to the surface. So as you dig this up, as you dig this material up, run it through the sorter, you can leave behind the barren rock primarily. If it works as well in the field as it did in the lab, 90-some% of the rock is non-bearing, gold bearing. Leave that behind, and then take a concentrate to the mill, so you don't have to spend a huge amount of money running this material through a mill as well, right?
Look, yes, that's exactly right. We're looking at where it's hard rock, like Karratha or Beatons Creek, for example. Right. We would crush, screen, and then mechanically sort. Now, then you end up with a concentrate. Like I said, it's a rock concentrate, but it has, in it most of the gold in your deposit, right? So that's your product at that point. Well, you still have to mill it. I mean, you have to do something with that to capture the gold. But that said, the benefit is you can take a lot of tons and reduce it down to a few tons, and in doing so, you can capture a huge amount of savings.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to be testing this in the field now, I believe, or you're about to start that. So when do you think we might have some feedback on that?
Coronavirus has been a challenge for everyone. In our case, we were looking at scenarios where we could get something deployed almost immediately earlier in the year. Because the materials coming in and out of Australia were delayed, we had to opt for a manufacturing unit with Steinert in Europe. It will be delivered in I think it's about 16 weeks left, something like that. So later this year, we will deploy one. We're going to put it at Karratha, and the reason for that is because we see a huge value at Karratha. Look, we've told people we're going to go test mine there. Now we have the test processing to accompany that. That's the critical part here, and in doing so, we can now advance that project. We can unlock a lot of value.
So you've got basically 3 different areas where you're focusing on. Karratha, you've got Egina, which is that nature milled target that gives it a lot of advantages. You don't have to mill it. It's already milled. It's like gravel with gold in it. Scoop it up. Wonderful. And then you have Beatons Creek, which I understand could be your first production. Because you are really looking to go into production. You're not just looking to find a massive amount of gold for someone else. Right?
We're not mucking around here. Like, we also respect the fact that, we're basically the only gold company that's kind of focused on something like this. This is truly blazing a new trail. But yeah, we have full intent on taking things to production. Beatons Creek, of course, is our most advanced property. We've been working there for 10 years. We have a robust resource, but it's one that's easy to grow. Like, these are layers, like I said, so it's not hard to extend the deposit as you grow. But we want to see that grow through production, and right now we are working frantically towards a path for production.
All right. So your shareholders, just real quickly, who are your major shareholders?
Kirkland Lake is number 1. I believe they're at around 16%. Eric Sprott has a bit over 12%. Mark Creasy, who's the prospector who helped me put a lot of this land together, we just did a settlement deal with him, and it's a big deal, okay, Jay, because we had a joint venture on the ground around Beatons Creek with Mark, 70-30. So by settling up and basically taking 100% control of that in exchange for shares, Mark's shareholding is now up a bit. I think it's around 7.5 or 8% at present. But in doing so, it gives Novo shareholders a huge upside in terms of 100% exposure to that asset. So those are the three biggies. We have several funds, and Newmont's still a large shareholder, about 3.5%. But those are the biggies.
Very good. And so, just in closing, Quinton, what might shareholders be really keeping an eye on now in the next 6 months or so?
Okay, we'll touch on each one of them. So at Egina, lots of exciting exploration. We're doing a very aggressive, what we call max sampling now. These are grab samples, and we put them through a small test plant, get immediate results, and that really guides us, tells us where the gold is in the gravels and the swales out in the flats. Okay, that's a wonderful approach. It's going to help us expedite exploration there. We are going to do lots of bulk sampling on the back of that once we identify the target areas. We'll come in and grab some of the 50 to 100 ton samples and use those for estimating grade, things like that. All right, so lots of exciting exploration work over the next few months. At Karratha, we're going to actually go test mining now. That's the whole news release that we issued last week. We have test plants for test mining as well as processing now with the Steiner. I mean, this is really exciting stuff. We do plan on transporting material from other properties. So from Egina, we can transport gravel over to Karratha and put it through the mill. A lot of people ask me why Karratha. Okay, well, because our camp at Egina is fully maxed out. Our camp at Beatons Creek is fully maxed out. Karratha is a city. There's lots of hotels, and we got place for people to stay. Okay, so it's easier to operate there. But we're going to transport stuff from Beatons. We're going to transport stuff from a lot of the other projects that we don't even talk about that much, like Virgin Creek and Contact Creek and Talga. Look, we have a lot of potentially sortable projects out there, and now we have the means to test this. So we're just absolutely delighted. We see all the pieces and all the hard work we've done over the past few years coming together, and I'd say by the end of this year, the culmination will be little yellow bars about yay big, weighing a few hundred ounces each. And I think that will be the center of gravity for that will probably be in the East Pilbara somewhere.
Wonderful. Well, it is an exciting story. I've been watching it. Patience is required in this industry, as you know, better than anyone. But this, I think, is going to really pay off. We've already done well, of course, and I look forward to keeping up with this story, Quinton. I want to thank you very much for taking your time, sharing it with our viewers. It's a fantastic story, and I hope everyone will take a look and go to your website because there's an awful lot of great information there, too. That sorting machine, for example, that mechanical sorting is illustrated there. So much information. Thank you so much, Quinton. All the best.
Thank you.